Today on our program, I want to take you into northern British Columbia to two of our main rivers, to the Nass and the Skeena. And we will see one of Canada's largest logging drives. And we will talk to one of British Columbia's largest independent logging operators. A seaplane takes off from a landing field, and it's on wheels, and the wheels fall off. Now, would you explain that? Because we're all going to see it in just a few moments. What is actually happening?
Well, when we change the plane from wheels to floats, we put the floats on in a hangar, lay it on a dolly, which is 4 wheels, get out in the runway, and at 60 miles an hour, pull your plane in the air and you're away, and you land back on the lake.
And well, that's fine, as long as you've got a lake to land on. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here it is. It's the beginning of the season. What's the time of the year?
This is about the 1st of May.
And there goes the seaplane on wheels.
That's right.
And I don't want the job of catching the wheels at the other end of the runway.
60 miles an hour and you're airborne.
Okay. Now we're going to go logging. That area that we're flying over right there, a large logging camp, right?
That's Columbia Cells Camp up on the Nass River. They have had this camp for quite some years, and now we fly over Canyon City right alongside of the lava beds. The lava flow, of course, is well known in the Nass area. It's about 20-some miles in length. Happened probably 300 years ago.
And when we talk about logging in this part of Canada, it's big logging, enormous log storage along the sides of the rivers, eh?
That's right. These logs are stacked and decked along the river through the winter months on the snow and the ice, and then they water them when high water hits early in June, around the clock. Now here you're looking at log storage down at Iceberg Bay, probably 65 miles down the river. There's a Japanese ship loading logs here for Japan.
The influence of the salt water on the logs. We know about the teredo worm or the shipworm that will bore holes through the wood. How long are they able to leave the logs in the water here?
Well, a couple of seasons, Bob, without hurting them too much. This is common practice everywhere. Well, this is the village, the Ooligan village along the Nass River, where the Indians traditionally fished Ooligan for the last 100 years.
And this is where the grease trails start from.
That's right.
The Indians have carried the Ooligan oil in the cedar boxes to the various villages, could be hundreds of miles away, really, in the interior. And I must say, a logging operation can be a very careful operation. I've never seen logs treated so gently, but there's a reason for this.
Well, the fisheries have asked that they lower these logs under power so that they don't disturb the salmon. The sockeye run is on, and this is in the month of June. So this is the habit that the operator has to learn, is to let these logs into the water easy.
Think in terms of driving the logs in the river now, Ray. In eastern Canada, it's traditional to drive logs in the river, but it's a different kind of operation than what you encounter out here, isn't it?
Entirely different. And the rivers are different, too. The timber that we drive on the Nass River is large timber, big timber, and the storage requirements are different.
That's right. Now, is that a jam or is that storage?
This is storage where we deck logs, so there's probably 40 million feet decked right on the bank of the Nass River here. And you see the shear booms. Now, there's approximately 36 miles of shear booms in the river that Columbia Cell has over the years put in to control these logs. And they have also dug 1 or 2 channels where you'll see the logs funnel down through here and in through a channel, so they're really right out of the main river.
Is there harm to the river itself by conducting this kind of operation? What do you think?
Not really. There's been a lot of controversy over log drives everywhere, but it really hasn't done the spawning areas that much harm, and I would say that the Indians probably suffer from net damage where they put their nets in and have a log come down the river and tear a net out. Now we're going by the old village of Viance that was flooded a number of years ago, and the government built the Indians a new village on the other side of the river. Now you see us entering into the number 2 canyon of the Nass River, which is probably 7 or 8 miles long and pretty fast. Very turbulent water, and at the same time, we had to meet hundreds of logs coming around the corners of this river, and there are whirlpools in this river that would suck a 40-foot log right down. This is the high dump. This is where we're dumping logs between 250 and 300 feet right into the Nass River.
Well, surely with an operation like that, you're going to wreck a lot of logs, aren't you?
Oh, a little, but it was a case of either getting what wood they could out of there or facing a tremendous cost of getting a road into the area to haul it out.
Is this still done?
No, it isn't, no. It was only a temporary measure. In fact, within a week or two after this shot, this was in 1974, that was the end of the high dump.
Do you still have the trees up in that country that you had 20 years ago, the size of trees?
Not really, no, Bob. The big timber was actually logged off, I would say 10 or 15 years ago in most of the river flats, and that's where the large timber grows.
Now, this is part of the dumping?
That's right.
Right off the lip of the drop.
You had a 977 front-end loader here working around the clock. They have a crew here of 20-some people planting these trees on piecework, and several 100,000 trees will be planted this summer in this particular area on the Nass.
Do you change the crop at all? Is it the same tree?
Hemlock and spruce mainly, and reproduction is very good. They get a lot of rain on the Nass area, and so the reproduction is quite high.
What would you expect from natural reproduction? Or is there such a thing anymore?
Oh, yes, you get natural reproduction, but sometimes you don't get hemlock and spruce. Quite often you might get pine, or you may get a heavy growth of cottonwood.
So by this method you ensure the crop. You know
That's
exactly
right.
what you're going to get. Okay, now a problem in the river.
Well, this was one of the large log jams that they tried to break loose, and they had permission to blast it with powder.
You get in, you plant the charge, and you're going to blow a key part of the jam and it'll all go free.
It was something to watch, that's right. As a matter of fact, I believe the newspaper from Prince Rupert had a cameraman up there, but I don't think he got a picture. It blew fast and it was dangerous, and there were logs flying some 500-600 feet in the air.
Where were you?
Up on the bank under a windfall.
What about the log jam? With all of the debris that was coming down, what happened to the jam?
Well, in this particular jam, the water came up in October about 15 to 20 feet and cleaned the jam right off. And I understand now that it's back in again this year.
You mean all the loggers had to do was seesaw on the jam? That with that blow it didn't move it?
That was about the only good that came out of it.
All right. Let's move elsewhere in the Nass Valley now, and I would think here where? We're down at the storage area?
We're down near Iceberg Bay, where they have approximately 9 to 10 miles of dolphins driven here to control the logs as they go down to the lower end of the Nass. This is tidewater, very shallow.
These are the dolphins we're looking at, the pilings sticking up, which they anchor the booms to, is that right?
The shear booms are anchored to these, and the dolphins have to be replaced because the ice in the spring takes quite a number of them out. And you see a pile driver working here all summer long. Now this is their camp for their storage and booming ground on the lower Nass at Iceberg Bay, which probably houses 50 to 60 people.
Shore-based camp, yes.
That's right.
Now, logging has changed over the years. It would have been men dancing around on the booms, where today it's one man in a dozer boat.
That's right. That one man with that dozer boat would probably do what 10 or 12 men did a number of years ago with pike poles and running over the logs. You see here some of the work boats, the big jets with 360 Ford Marine motors in them. They're built right here in Vancouver. These are not the fast river boats that we were using that you saw before.
Ray Skoglund, and a look at northern British Columbia, a place that we would love you to come and visit. Thanks, Ray. Thank you.